Okay, 7 people have joined. Okay, let us start. Good morning, students. Yesterday we saw regarding the small scale industries and the objectives and the roles. We have seen like what are the small scale industries, how they affect our economy of the country. Everything we saw today, like. We also saw the characteristics of SSI, the characteristics that is the production output in small quantities, small number of workers and employees, lowest possible capital investment in plant and machinery, and SSIs have a low gestation period. That means they are very easy to set up within a small time, within the less time in the rural and backward areas, and easy to install. Then the SSIs, the unit is not owned, controlled, subsidized by any other industrial undertaking. Then generally utilize local resource and product goods services to meet the local demand, and usually present in the form of family business. Informal style of management is used here in case of this. Then we saw why I'm covering this is because this is one of the important question which generally is asked by the exam. In the exam, the question comes: so what are the characteristics of small scale industries, or what are the roles of or objectives of the SSI? So if it roles and objectives they come, then you can write all these things to increase the employment, to address the local markets, to stimulate the growth of local entrepreneurship, to foster the diversification of economic activities, to introduce new products and all, to improve the standard of living. Yesterday we discussed all about this. To provide equitable dispersal of industries throughout rural and backward areas, and to promote a decentralized pattern of ownership. So this is also a very important aspect of SSI, because this type of questions are also being asked in the VTU exam. So the questions may be roles of SSI, or objectives of SSI, or maybe what are the reasons for establishing SSI, something like that. The questions will remain same. Questions may vary, but the answer will remain same. So and moreover, before we start today's presentation, I would like to also say that this weekend, so we are having one important webinar. Basically, it is conducted by one of the prestigious and highly decorated officer of Indian Army, Brigadier Bajwa. So he'll be conducting webinar on the leadership in the Indian Army's perspective, giving live examples how exactly he carried out the operations in Kargil war, and how he has tackled the militants and all, everything he will be explaining you. So one of the best webinars. Kindly attend that, because that will show you, it will give you insight how a person can undertake the operations under good leadership, and with the determination and courage, how can he undertake the operations. That all will be discussed. So kindly attend that. It will be on Saturday from 5 to 6 p.m. The link will be shared, and it will be going for other two batches also, 5th EAB and also the parallel batch. Because I have seen the parallel batch has actually done very good compared to the 5th normal batches, because of their involvement and their attitude. It's good. Good to see that you guys have initiated your own, because there was a because it's MED, the Management and Entrepreneurship Development assignments. So I have given you good marks in your assignments. So this will be taken as an assignment only. So I'll be allocating the marks. I think you have got a very good fair amount of marks. But there were other groups, one or two groups also did very well in that. I think so. So most probably you'll be falling within 1, 2, 3 within that. So we'll be grading you accordingly. So now we'll see, today we see the advantages of SSI. Now what are the advantages of SSI, that is small scale industries? why we have to go for the small scale industries. Now, first one is require less capital resources while securing funding at lucrative terms and interest rates. Now, what happens is these SSIs, since they are all very small scale businesses or the enterprises, they require less capital. So, with the minimum amount of investment, you can start the small scale industry. And also for that thing you can have a government funding also, or government is also willing to pay some amount for that also, with like loan facilities with the lowest interest rates and all. So this is the one advantage for the SSI, but these kind of facilities are not available for the bigger companies or the enterprise which is above certain limits of the funding. Then they have lower gestation period. Also, we have seen that the installation of the company, like company induction. So you for big companies, company induction takes more time, maybe 6 months or 8 months like that. But in the case of a small sector, small scale industries, it will be within 15 days or maximum 1 month. You can be able to establish your own company and start your business with the lowest gestation period. That is the minimum time for starting your business. Then, of course, we know that it provides local employment opportunities. So these are the advantages. At relatively very small capital investment, you can also have people can join, the local people can join this company, and you can give them the incentives and other things, so that they can come and work for your company with full labor intensive capacity. Then we have these SSIs also attract subsides, incentives, tax exemptions from the government. Now, since these are very small industries, so the profit is also less. Since the profit is less, like tax exemptions are given, because government knows that there are certain challenges faced by small scale industries in terms of the profit and other aspects, because of lack of manpower, lack of skilled labor. Skilled labor means what happens in the rural and your backward areas, you will not get a skilled labor. So the labor which is there, which may not be an educated one, or they may not undertake any kind of skilled work. So they will be used for some kind of unskilled works. So that those people are called as unskilled laborers. So these unskilled laborers, for to develop them, to if you employ them, and so what happens is government also sees that yes, these SSIs are actually undertaking the employment requirements of the unskilled labor at the rural and backward areas. So government also will pitch in, and they help you to support you in the financials, and in terms of exemptions in the tax and other benefits, the incentives and all. So with that, your company will be able to address that situation, and these are the advantages of the SSI. Then in many instances earn valuable for foreign exchange for the country. Now these things, what happens in many instances, what happens, these SSIs also are very important for foreign exchange. So that also they can earn a lot of valuable foreign exchange for the current country. This is possible because being in the rural area, you may manufacture certain things which are attract the foreign companies also. Basically, when you are manufacturing some kind of a small clutches for tractors, or some kind of a small items, those can be at the cheapest of rates, that can be exported, imported, and all that can happen. So with that, it will attract the foreign companies also. And also these SSIs enjoy privileges for exclusive manufacturing of certain products. Now what happens, this has got advantage of that one. SSIs can, you have a certain products which are exclusively required by the local market. So it is not that it's a diversified, it is not a diversified product. It's basically a focused product. What I can say is a specific product which you require, which is suitable for your local market, and probably for you can expand also to other cities and all, depending on your the growth and your profit. Then these SSIs also mobilize local talent, resources, raw material, which may otherwise remain unutilized. Now, what happens? These SSI, if had it been there is no SSI in some rural areas, there may be a certain talent there, maybe a certain local person having some talent to run the business or do the work, and you have raw materials also. But if you are not having any SSI nearby, then it will be just laying unutilized, and there will be no there is no way to explore or utilize those raw materials which are there in your area. So for that, SSIs are very much required to utilize such raw materials and the resources. And the SSIs help in shifting the concentration of industrial activity from big cities to smaller towns and villages and backward areas. No, there may be an industry which is it is situated in some of the industrial areas of cities. Like there may be a small company which is there in the Pinya industrial estate. Now, but there this company is not doing good because of lack of raw materials, lack of maybe probably they may have skilled labor here, but resources and raw materials are not adequate to conduct the operations like productions and all. So this is not the correct site for the project for your company. So what you have to do is, in that case, what happens? They will open, either they shift the factory itself to the rural area or backward area, or they may open a subsidized unit or a small subunit of that company, so that they can operate the production lines from the that backward area or the villages where they have adequate raw materials. Sometimes even though they are in Bangalore and city industrial area, and the raw material is around 100 kilometers, now the transportation also becomes a very big problem. So it's not easy to transport everyday basis the raw material required, resources required. So better to shift the company, and so this helps in this SSI will form one of the advantage for shifting the concentration. So once you do this, some of the portion of your industrial activity from the big cities, they may migrate towards the smaller villages and backward areas, because sometimes it happens that in the village it is really not possible to establish a small scale industry because of lack of seed capital, there is lack of investment and all. So then what happens? The company which is already established in the city industrial area, those companies probably can migrate from city to the backward areas or the villages where they get more profit. So those kind of things can happen with this SSI. And also these SSI enjoy a preferential purchase of products from the government. Now what happens is, this government also gives you some leeway for your products purchase. Like you want to get the you want to have raw materials, and they help you getting the raw materials. Once after getting the raw material, you get the production lines done, and once you make the product, now these products are purchased from the government also. Now the government says, okay, you are a small scale industry, so we want to promote your growth, so we want to promote your this thing. So what the government says, instead of going to other big companies, they will say, okay, we'll place the order to the small scale industries, since they are already supported such industries. So with that, what happens? Now these small scale industries gain attention from the government sector also. So which is very important. Though the private sector is there, but when it gets attention towards the government, then the value of the small scale industry also it enhances. And also the SSI provide an excellent platform for demonstrating entrepreneurial acumen and ability. So we already discussed in one of the objectives also. They provide excellent platform for demonstrating entrepreneurial acumen and ability. So some person in the village who has got some capability or acumen for the entrepreneurial development and all. So this provides a good platform for such people, such local people who are there for their development and growth. So these are all the advantages of SSI. Now there may be a question. So this question has to come several times in the VTU paper, advantages of SSI. So 7 to 8 marks. So you write all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So probably that maybe question come for 10 marks also. So I am keeping 10 points so that even if it comes for the 10 marks also, you can write and explain a little bit about that. I told you already. So you dot like this diagram, remember like this, and it is easy to write in the reproduce in the exam. When you write in the exam, it is again how much you have to contribute, how much you have to write, the quantity, and with the quality. So kindly ensure that depending on marks, you should write your answers. You don't write for 4 marks advantages, you write full figures and explain everything 2 pages. No, 4 marks, just write 4 points and like explain a little bit on that. So 6 marks, you explain 6 to 7 points with some diagram like this and explain. So 10 points, you have to explain all the points. Accordingly, you keep the diagram also, and some limitations and advantages, and also you can put. Now this is the different policies of SSI. Now SSI, when they formed, they have the certain policies which have been made by the government to how they should conduct, how they should execute the work and all. So there are certain policies which have been earmarked. So first is the reservation of items for exclusive purchase from SSI. Now what they do, government, what they have done, now they have put some compulsory purchase from certain SSIs. So government sector and certain public sector companies, they will purchase the items from these companies only, the SSIs only, or there may be certain particular companies which are blacklisted, so they have some reservations of those items which they have to procure from certain companies. So those things, they have certain policies have been made on those things. Now there is another policy called excise duty exemption on third party branded goods manufactured by SSI units and rural areas. So whenever you have the third party branded goods manufactured by SSI in rural area, so their excise duty exemption is given. So these are the policy which are formulated by the government to exempt the excise duty for the third party goods. Then SSI is allowed to pay excise duty on a monthly basis as against payment of duty at the time of removal of goods from the factory. Now this is the one thing, like daily there may be goods which are going out from the factory on sale, or maybe to other subsidiary. So what happens is you have to pay excise duty whenever the goods go out from the company. So now they have made a arrangement that they can pay monthly basis instead of paying daily basis. So some leeway has been given to SSI. I hope you are following it. Some people are leaving. I hope everyone is following. Sumant?
Yes, sir.
Are you able to listen? Na?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Meghana V?
Sir?
Understanding, no?
Yes, sir.
Chava Reddy?
Sir.
Understood, no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Preeti Bhai?
Yes, sir.
Understanding?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Veeksha?
Yes, sir.
Are you able to understand?
Yes, sir. I'm able to.
Any doubts?
No, sir.
No doubts. Amrish?
Yes, sir.
So any doubt? No doubts?
No, doubt, sir.
Okay. Okay. So because why I'm telling you is because this we have a small gathering. It's a small class, so we can have one-to-one interaction also. So if you have any doubts, you can ask the question in between. Okay. So now different policies when they formulated. So then there was one policy on all industrial units in the northeastern region are exempted from excise duty for 10 years, starting from August 99 or from the respective date of commencement of production. See these kind of things, because Northeast is being one of the backward area of India where there is a lack of raw materials, lack of industries. You don't find any companies there in the northeast area. That is particularly Meghalaya, Mizoram, and the Assam, some parts of Assam, and there is one more Nagaland and all. So they have certain Arunachal Pradesh. So these states have a little problem regarding the small scale industries. So now government has given an exemption for 10 years. They have given exemption for the excise duty. So once you have this, so the companies will come forward and they will be, show some interest for developing the rural areas or the backward areas and all. So these are the policies which are formulated by the government, central government for that matter. Then there is a grant of rupees 75,000 rupees to each SSI unit which opts for ISO 9000 certification. Now what happens is these small industries, they're having a very minimal infrastructure with minimal manpower and resources. If they apply for ISO 9000 certification and if they get the ISO 9000 certification for the quality and the quantity products what they are developing, then the government will grant rupees 75,000 rupees for each of such units. So this is one major step which was taken towards the policy formulation of SSI. Then there was one-time capital grant of 50% for small-scale association which wish to develop and operate testing laboratories provided they are international standard. Now, so if any SSI, any small-scale industry in the backward area, if they are able to achieve international standard testing laboratories, then there is a 50% for there is one-time capital grant is there. So 50% of one-time capital grant means if your capital is around 1 lakh rupees, let's say example, or 2 lakh rupees, then you will get 50% of that as a grant, one-time grant. So if it is a 2 lakhs, then you will get 1 lakh. If it is 1 lakh, you will get 50,000 rupees as a one-time grant for your achievements. So these things, because you will be doing a lot of expenditure in doing the international standard laboratories or testing laboratories, and you are doing so, the government will give you 50% one-time grant for such small-scale associations. Now, these are the policies which have been formulated by the government for giving the 50% grant, capital grant. Then there is no liability for SSIs under state sales tax law for import of the goods into or export of the goods out of the territory of India. So this is one policy which has been formulated by the government to develop these SSIs. So there is no liability for SSI under state tax. So the state tax is exempted for import and export if they are doing import of export of any goods out of the country. Then from the whichever state they are operating, there they need not to pay tax. Sales tax is exempted. Now it is GST. So earlier it was sales tax, now it is everything is converted to GST. So there is no GST. So the GST is exempted for any kind of import export what you do from the small scale industries. Then we have the export sales for SSIs exempted from levy of sales tax under Central Tax Act also. So whenever there is an export you are doing, that means you are actually selling to other countries outside our country, then you are exempted for a central. There is they see everything now. Earlier there were like state sales tax. Earlier we had central sales tax, CST, ST, and all we had. Now it is all clubbed into GST. So this is all GST we talk about. All the GSTs have been exempted from the central government side also. Whatever GST is applicable, that also exempted for the exports, whatever you do, but not for the imports. Yeah, so that is very important. For the imports only say they are applicable for the tax, the state government, but for the central it is only exports. Reservation of items for exclusive manufacture in the small scale sector. Now, there have been policies made by the government for reservation of items for exclusive manufacture in the small scale. They will earmark one certain items which are exclusively manufactured in the small scale industry only. That means they make policies in such a way that no other big companies can undertake such operations without government's clearance. That means this kind of manufacturing capacity or the permission is given to only the small scale industries. These kind of form of the policies have been formulated by the SSI, that is the small scale industries. So these are the one different policies which are made by the government agencies, state and central government. So for the SSI, so there may be a question probably this time, because we have not seen any question coming on the policies. They may ask you one or two times we have seen these kind of questions coming in the exam. What are the different policies of SSI and their upliftment or the growth of SSI, something like that. So you can mention certain policies and explain them one by one. I have put in a figure format so that you can remember it very easily. Now, this is a flow chart for setting up a small enterprise or the small scale industries. Now, there are certain steps which are required to do it. So, first step is selection of a project. Now, you have to select, make a selection of a project for a small scale industries. Now, for what kind of project you want to undertake, like what kind of product you want to, like product or the service selection, whether you want to go for a product or a service based company, and location selection, which location you want to do it. Project feasibility study. Now we have to do the project feasibility also, whether this project is implementable or whether this project is really can it be explored, or can it be achieved that all the product lines and production lines and all, can we do it with our budget constraints and all that thing will be discussed in this. Then prepare project profile. You have to be based on this location and the feasibility, you make the project profile. Then finally you make the business plan. So once you make the business plan, once you make how we conduct the operations and all, and what would be my raw materials, what would be my product lines, production lines, and like that all, you make the business plan. Then you decide on the constitution of the company. In that, obtain SSI registration. There is something called the SSI, small scale industry registration you have to do. So you have to obtain the registration. That is just what we do for other companies also, we take registration. Similarly, we have to obtain registration. And also obtain clearances from the specific departments as applicable. So there are certain clearances which we need to take from the different departments of government. So once we do that, then we have another to arrange for land or the shed where you want to conduct the operations or the business. Then arrange for plant or machinery, if plant and machinery are required. Then arrange for infrastructure. Infrastructure means other infrastructure also there, like electricity is required for running the plant or machinery. Your other resources are required for getting the raw materials, the storing of the raw material, where you will be storing the raw material, the storage facility, the infrastructure required. All that thing can be arranged here in this. Once you do that, then prepare project report. Once you make the final business plan here, report. Once you do that, then apply and obtain finance. Now, once you get the report done, business plan is made, then you either apply, or if you have full capital available with you, seed capital, you can start the business. Otherwise, you can apply and obtain finance from the government also. The government gives you the money for this to conducting operations, and proceed to implement the project, obtain final clearances. So this is the flow chart of the setting up of a small scale enterprise or small scale industry. So the question may come, what are the processes involved in the setting up of a small scale industry? So you, one by one, you can write. these steps can be used. Now we'll see how exactly these points can be implemented. One by one, we elaborate and see what are what is a project and how we do and all. We'll see a little bit in a detailed manner. So project selection and the preliminary activities, which involves product and service selection. Now we depend now what kind of business we would like to do, whether it is a product based or service based. So that we have to decide. Sometimes you may require only service to do the maintenance. Like say example, there are tractor industries are there. Tractors have been manufactured and they are given to the villages. Government has given tractors to different farmers on loan or as a grant, one-time grant. All the farmers, poor backward areas, they have given the tractors. Now there is a problem of making the tractors to undertake the servicing. Now they are using for last 2 to 3 years, but there is no servicing done on the tractors. Though there is a poor maintenance of the tractors, because of which they are unable to actually do the correct usage of the tractors, because some tractors are not working properly and all. So now you have to, as a SSI, you should establish one small industry to undertake the servicing of the tractors for the villages. Like say example, there are some 4 to 5 villages within some 10 kilometers. So you put your 10 square kilometers area. In that there are some around, say, let us say for 5 to 6 villages. So for that all 5 to 6 villages, you establish a small scale industry in between, so that it is easily available for all the people. And like say we have 100 tractors across that 5 villages. So to service all the 100 tractors, you have to start a small scale industry for doing the servicing, where you will be doing some maintenance work of the tractors. Some mechanics will be there and undertake certain cleaning of the or your whatever the preventive maintenance which is required. So all that thing can be undertaken. Just giving an example how the product would be otherwise also. Then the location selection. Now once you have established that, okay, I am going for the service based for the tractors. Now you have to identify a location. Location means the location should be ideal to the all the villages. Now it should be if you are taking a 5 to 6 villages, you place your location should be in between, so that in the center of the circle, so that everyone can be easily approached for the servicing to be done. Then project feasibility study. Now you have to study, you have to do the project feasibility, whether if I implement, whether my project will be successful, whether it is feasible or not. That means I will establish a company for doing the servicing of tractors at the backward area for the farmers with the subsidized rates, whether it is feasible or not. Feasibility means whether I can be able to achieve the servicing for 100 tractors or not, is possible or not. Something like that we have to explore. Feasibility study, whether my adequate manpower is there or not, whether the material which is required, tools required, whether we have tools for doing the maintenance or not. If any major servicing is required, whether we have the facility or not, or where we have to approach. All that feasibility study we have to do. And this is actually something called the feasibility study. Means it's a technical feasibility. So we talk about everything in technical feasibility. That is the engineering feasibility, what we call about. The technical means engineering. So once we do that, then what we do, we prepare the project profile. Then you take the project profile, okay, what kind of project we have to do, like how we have to go about, and all will be made. And then finally we formulate the business plan. Then once we make the business plan with our whatever site location and the feasibility study and the service-based selection, then we prepare the final plan, and then we go for the further procedure. Now, in this again, we see detail the product or the service selection. The main factors to be considered in deciding a suitable project are as follows: the nearness and proximity to the market. Now, this is product and service. Like if it is a service based, I told you we are in a circle of 10 square kilometers, then we have to be in somewhere near to the center so that everyone can be easily approachable, because within 5 kilometers of radius, they can always come and do get the service done. Now, availability of raw materials. This is very important. So in case any spare parts are required, whether we can able to get the raw materials, how far is the raw material. So these things we have to also, like say maybe within that 10 square kilometers we may not have, but in another 50 square kilometers we may probably have some people who are selling the raw materials required, or the spare parts required for the servicing of the tractors. Let us say example, in case if there is a village, and let's say around some 5 to 6 villages in a 10 kilometers area, square kilometers area, but the raw materials are far away, like around 200 kilometers now. So this is the one of the major thing, because for every time we require raw material, we have to go 200 kilometers across and get the raw material. So this is one, this kind of things will be a big challenge. So we should identify such a source of raw materials where we can get such thing, or we establish another small scale industry for getting the raw materials. Only that the SSI will concentrate on the raw materials required for that. That means see one SSI will give an opportunity to go for another SSI nearby if it is beyond certain limits. So these things are very important. Then availability of transformation and communication facilities. This is very important. Now these communication facilities are required because now earlier days we had problem with the communication, but nowadays these kind of problems are resolved because now mobile communication we have. So this shouldn't be any problem in this kind of scenario. These these things were applicable when when we didn't have the mobile and other communication facilities. Availability of government incentives and concessions, of course, is we have to see that for a product or service based selection, we should see that what kind of government and incentives and concession are being given, and then what are the government industrial policies which are there formulated for production. Then availability of suitable infrastructural facilities for production, like if it is a production, like say servicing only, whether we have adequate infrastructure for doing the servicing of tractor, whether we have the washing bay, whether we have the servicing tools and adequate facility to infrastructure facilities for conducting the repair work. If I want to dismantle the engine of the tractor, whether I have facility or not, whether any other suitable sophisticated equipments are required for such things, all that things we have to explore. Then of course we have to also see that whether the labor is available or not for doing this work. Now for SSIs, which we are giving an example of a tractor based servicing, but if it is some other thing where the labor is required, then we have to also see that the labor available for this kind of job or not. Sometimes you put SSI, but there is no adequate labor, then you will be having problem in running the SSI. So these things also need to be taken care while you are doing the product or service selection. Then convenience for the entrepreneurs. Now this should be easy for the entrepreneurs to carry out the operations. So this is also one of the important factor for considering this. Now, yes, this is a business plan preparation. I hope everyone is following. Some more people have joined. Yashwant. Yashwant, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Understanding?
Yes, sir.
Amrish Mudenur.
Yes, sir.
Are you following?
Yes, sir.
Any doubt?
No, sir.
No doubt.
No, sir.
Okay. Now, coming to the business plan preparation. Now, this is a document where the entrepreneur plans his business to have an organized and effective response to a situation which may arise in future. So he has to plan effectively in case anything happens in future. How can we tackle that situation? That also will be taken care in this plan. The business plan is used to make crucial startup decisions, to reassure lenders, investors, to measure operational progress, to test planning assumptions, to adjust forecasts, and to set the standard of good operational management. So these plans are very important because they involve a lot of such decisions made for the lenders, investors, and the operational progress and all. So these are very important business plans. Now, after doing the business, design on the constitution. Now, to start any industry or the enterprise, promoters have to decide on the constitution of the unit, which includes three major alternatives: proprietary, partnership, or company. Like means what kind of company you will be having, whether it is a proprietary based. Proprietary based means a wholesale owner, one person, a owner, or it is a partnership based company, or a company based your enterprise. So all that thing will be decided before that. In fact, it has to be decided at the initial stage of the project, and necessary formalities should be completed by the time of application of provisional registration certificate, that is PRC, is made to district industry center. So these are very important. Before you start your enterprise, whether you have to decide whether it's a owner based company or a partnership based company. Then registration. Obtaining a registration. Entrepreneurs desiring to start a small enterprise to have initially obtain PRC, that is provisional registration certificate, just like what you get PDC, that is provisional degree certificate. Just like the same, we have provisional registration certificate. Once the unit goes into production, the PRC can be converted into permanent registration certificate. So this can be done by using this SSI. So it's very too easy to get the provisional registration because no hassles, because government has made very simple procedure for conducting such SSI, and then later on you can obtain permanent registration certificate after your production lines having come into action. Can we stop here or should we continue? It's almost 12:28 now. Yeah. Sumant?
Sir, we'll stop, sir.
We'll stop. Oh, okay. So have you understood clearly? Today we
Yes, sir.
saw the policies and the other activities like
Advantages.
advantages we saw, and what else we saw? The how to conduct a project-based feasibility study and all selection. So I was giving an example of tractor. Please don't write in exam the tractor example. You can write, but you explain in your own words, like giving such examples. You can write tractor also, no issue. But you may make it as an example. You can explain. Okay. I hope you have understood completely on the whatever I have taught you. The next class we'll see the other topics. Okay. Fine. Take care. All the best.